Hello everybody and welcome back to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Max Hayes, your host, and as Nottingham Forest take a well-earned mid-season break, although the players are still working out in Dubai for the week before a trip away to Exeter on a freezing cold night at 8 o'clock in the FA Cup. I feel for the players and I feel for the fans going after it gets moved for TV with all the FA Cup and everything around that. Forest take that trip down to Exeter after being in sunny Dubai. We shall look ahead to that game on this podcast and also look back at a not so busy transfer window and a quiet deadline day for once. And of course talk about Forest's unbelievable 7-0 win that still is getting talked about in the headlines, joined by Rob Evans from the Charity Footprints chair and lifelong Forest fan. He's been on the podcast a couple of times. He'll be a familiar voice to you now. Rob, good to have you back with us, mate. How's things? How are you feeling? And I bet you wish you were in sunny Dubai with the players.
First of all, feeling really good after last Saturday. After, obviously, I'm sure how every Forest fan felt the week before. I think we all went into Saturday thinking that if we lost again, is that the start of a bad run? So that was amazing on Saturday to see that, and then seeing the guys in Dubai doing the team bonding. I saw that when Arsenal got knocked out of the cup the other night, that they were on the way over there as well, so they won't have as much time over there as the Forest team. But yeah, it looked like it was good fun, and I hope those diving board jumps hasn't caused any injuries.
I was just about to say that, Rob, about the players and about whether I saw a video of Ola Reina doing some kind of somersault off a diving board. So fingers crossed he hasn't injured himself or any player out there. I'm sure they've been on best behaviour. I mean, in fact, Rob, actually, let's just talk about that, because these mid-season breaks do seem to be popular now amongst clubs, especially in the Premier League. And Forest, it will surely help the team togetherness and having a week together and Nuno, working on tactics out there with them. That'll be a positive move, and obviously another good move by the Marinakis family that have probably invested money and allowed the club to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be fantastic for the morale out there, and of course, I'm sure the fact that Forest actually didn't make any signings of note, obviously apart from the youngster from Man City and the centre half from Reading, I'm sure there's players on the edge like Taiwo, who in some respects may be relieved to know that he's still the second choice and should still get the opportunities moving forward. You always think about Moreno on the edge, because he was such a pivotal part of the first half of the season, certainly up until Man City. Again, I'm sure everybody saw him at the end of the Brighton game, still doing what old Steve Cooper used to do with the A block. So it's the same team, and I'm sure that gives them comfort. And they, to go away on the back of the 7-0 win, and knowing that they're coming back it'll be interesting to see what team they play against. I keep say Exeter. Sorry, it is Exeter on Tuesday. Whether they leave almost a second string 11, or whether there's some players. I'm sure they'll have a few on the bench ready to go, and it will be a fairly strong squad. I mean, he'll probably also stick to his trusted format of playing as well, whoever the personnel is. So I mean, it's talking to Marinakis, what he has done for the club, and it's great seeing on social media all the clips of when people talk about Ineos and the glum chairman and the support crew around them, and then you see Marinakis. That it's phenomenal. And a lot of people don't realise, it's only from listening to podcasts that I've heard, or I think it was the interview that they did over in Greece, and hearing his story that he went to boarding school in the 70s when Forest and Liverpool were obviously competing, and he chose Forest. So whilst he may not be born over here, he's certainly a supporter of Forest from a young age, and you can see the way he treats the club. And it's amazing a lot of people don't know about Edu as well. When I remind, I think I've spoken to you before about my football group at work, and the Spurs fans on there, and Arsenal fans, and Liverpool fans, and Leeds fans. And when you hear that Edu's leaving Arsenal to come to work for the Marinakis group, it's like, hey, that's not supposed to happen. But he's obviously not landed yet, so we've got that to come as well. So it's all exciting stuff. And Marinakis particularly. I mean, I listened to one of the other podcasts last night of the Warriors United.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
It was fantastic, and hearing again what he did with them is he's just a top guy. I'm just so pleased that he's our chairman and he chose us. So it's amazing really as a provincial club when you think about Forest's journey over, certainly from the days of Brian Clough. We appear to be lucky, don't we? We get chosen by Brian Clough, and that was amazing. And even some of the previous owners may not have had the success, but they have been Forest fans. So it's been a good journey. Maybe apart from the Fawaz years, that was a little bit of a blip, but it's great to see. I see Billy Davis is at the Arsenal game on at the end of the month on Tuesday. So it's nice again that he's been welcomed back, because that was a good period, although it did end obviously in a bad way. It's great to see him back. So all positive.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. Talking about Billy, actually, he let me know he was going to be at the Arsenal game after we did the interview, and I thought, it was good to see that the club were welcoming back. You're right; it was a good period. Yes, there was issues off the pitch with Billy, but as we talked about in this interview, in terms of on the pitch, it was a very, very successful time under him. Rob, you mentioned there about the transfer window, and by the way, a great podcast from Richard and Greg on the Talking Reds, definitely with the Warriors United. So do go and check that out. It was really, really nice to listen to that, and shows, as you were saying, about the work that Marinakis does. But kind of looking back on that transfer window, Rob, and albeit a very quiet transfer deadline day, of course, Forest bring in Tyler Binden, the centre-back from Reading. He will spend basically the remainder of the season on loan there, and then Forest, of course, will review his options in the summer, but that seems like a positive signing. Reading fans quite gutted to see him go, albeit they'll get another couple of months with him. What did you make of that quiet deadline day, Rob? And we talked about it on the podcast with Steve and Dave the other week, and they both kind of said, well, look, it'll be nice to have a bit of a quiet deadline day, and it almost shows that Nuno and Marinakis trust the current squad. They trust them to get the job done, hopefully finish in and around Europe at the end of this season, and it shows the togetherness. We almost maybe didn't need anyone else, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the team, it's funny, I was thinking about this the other day, is when you, and I'm not answering the question here, but I'll move to it, but I was thinking about the squad as a whole, and I think I'm right in saying from the general starting 11, apart from Milenkovic and Anderson, it's actually a Cooper. They're all Cooper signings. So they're the only two that he's actually signed himself that are playing on a regular basis. And it's always funny hearing about managers, as in Man United and Spurs and other clubs, going into and talking about the squad that's there. He's taken an existing squad signed by another manager with a different style of play to him, and produced what he's produced. And I won't say Nuno doesn't get enough praise, because he does. I think that everybody realises what he's done, and of course, he also is becoming very popular now because of some of the stuff that he does around the community. But to answer your question, of course, we've signed because of the injuries, or the comeback from injuries in Danilo and Sangare. We've got £50 million worth of midfielders back in the squad. From where we started the season, or certainly the first game of the season, because I think I'm right in saying that Sangare and Danilo played in those games. So that shouldn't be that's no small move getting those back in. So that's a massive part. And I still can't forget the move by Taiwo when he came on against. I'm sure again everybody's confidence is up. But whilst Taiwo has done some amazing things for Nottingham Forest, I don't think I've ever seen him drag the ball back the way that he dragged the ball back. Obviously, he didn't score, but it got deflected. Sangare got knocked over, and then obviously it was knocked in. finally. But that is it makes you wonder. He must be, well, obviously he's sat watching Wood or seeing Wood perform and he must learn from Wood on a regular basis as well, the way he plays the game. But yeah, I just didn't think he had that in his locker. So if we can go into, because I think everybody is still always, because of his track record, I don't know what's changed this year, if anything happens to Wood, to see him coming in there as a potential replacement, it gives me a little bit more confidence. I have to say, the game before, when he had that touch in front of the bench, that he knocked it out. That was quite deflating, but and I'm sure it was for him. But I'm sure it does make a difference when you come on to a side that's winning, as opposed to a side that was losing, as it was against Bournemouth. That it gives you confidence. So I can absolutely see why there's no signings. I still don't think that we have seen the best of Soso. So as a or Soso, I don't know how it's pronounced. So we've got him to come as well. As I've mentioned, you've got Marina there on the bench. We've seen Bolly coming on as a centre half. If as we needed him, if any of the main three gets injured. So I can't imagine, apart from that striker, and everybody knows that if you're going to try and sign a striker in January, then you're going to pay over the odds. So I'm no expert on our PSR situation, but I'm sure that comes into consideration, because you imagine doing all the work that we've done and being punished by that. Would be soul destroying, but I can see exactly what the plan is, and in Nuno we trust, and of course the biggest thing, and I mentioned Spurs, is the injuries. I mean, we've been so lucky this year. Maybe it's not luck. Maybe the way Spurs are operating is, I think I remember in the Spurs days, in the Pierce days, we just seem to remember when Cohen got injured and Reed got injured, and it was constant, wasn't it? There was an investigation, wasn't there, into why we were getting all these injuries. So maybe it's not luck, and they're doing an amazing job in the back there. But I think Wood can be fragile, and maybe the way he's operating after the game, with regards to the aftercare, is a major benefit. But we're in a good place and not disappointed by any stretch. And I think it was mentioned the other day, there's only 14 games left, and when you think that we've got, I think I'm right in saying the next three games are Fulham, Newcastle and Arsenal in February. So that just leaves 11 games after that, and if we can still be the points clear we are of 6th place if the top 5 get Champions League by those 11 games, then, we're in such a strong position. So, very confident and, very happy with the situation at the moment.
Yeah, no, mate, definitely. And I think as well, you mentioned there with Danilo and Sangare, they do feel almost like new signings, especially if they can get, back to full fitness quite quickly and match sharpness. You've got the likes of, especially Danilo I'm talking about here. I thought, yes, he still looked a little bit nervy in terms of pulling out of 50-50 challenges, of course, when he played against Brighton, but you would do if you were a player with a crucial injury at the start. I think he's human. Every player has done that on their return. But in terms of the way he linked up with Morgan, the balls he was playing, almost the chances created by him in the midfield was excellent. So long that may that continue and definitely getting more match fitness in his legs. Looking ahead to Exeter, Rob, you mentioned there about the players on the bench and obviously the likes of even Danilo that will probably and most likely start. The same with Taiwo. I mean, do you think this is a good chance for Forest to keep progressing in another competition? And yes, of course, all focus is on the Premier League, and unbelievably still saying it now, hopefully getting, Europe, even Champions League football, mental to say. But when we've got another competition where we can play the likes of Jota Silva, Ramon Sosa, almost no disrespect to them, but the B team players, that's a positive thing, isn't it? Forest, if they can stay in the cup as long as possible, you never know, get through a couple of rounds with the B team, and then that's when you play the A team when you're in the 5th round or the quarter final.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's a phrase that you use, and I know some of your colleagues have used on the podcast in the years, and I think we're in a safe position not to use it anymore. It's called doing a Forest. Yeah. It'll be such a Forest thing to do, to go into a cup game like Exeter and lose, but that's not a thing anymore. So that's the first thing. So I do believe that we can go in there with a and no disrespect to Exeter whatsoever, the location, whatever. I do believe we can go in there, and there's players ready to step up. And you've mentioned there let's say Bolly goes in at centre half, and two of the others get a rest from it, and then you've got Sangari and Danilo. Obviously, I'm not an expert on the format, but you've got Sangari and Danilo in midfield, and Souza and Jota. All good players. So I'm sure that with a few of the regulars around them, it'll still be a strong side. And it was funny. I was looking the other day at because I didn't actually know what day the cup final was, and so I was checking it, and I actually booked a holiday for when that's away. And I was thinking, just imagine, I'll have to make some arrangements if that be the case. But yeah, I think we've absolutely, you think we've got to. In previous years, I think everybody knew that if you got Man City anywhere along the route, you were probably going out. That's probably not the case anymore. But I think if you got Liverpool somewhere along the line, then that would be a challenge without a doubt. I did like, by the way, I watched the game last night. I don't know if you watched it live.
Yeah, I did.
And we got a few mentions in the commentary, which is always good. We live in the minds of the people, not only being Liverpool fans and Liverpool managers, but also the commentators. Talking about the only club to win at Anfield this year, so that was good to hear. But no, I think we've got a real good opportunity to progress in the cup if we can have a draw format or a run like we had in the Cooper year in the FA Cup when it took us up. That'd be amazing. But of course, even if we come up, when I think about what Newcastle have achieved. In the League Cup and got through to the final. Remember, it was us they knocked out in I think it was the second or third round, and that was a tight game, a real tight game. So that could have gone either way, and that could have been us. So but we shouldn't be greedy. What would I take over an FA Cup final appearance or a place in Champions League? I'd take Champions League every single day of the week. When I heard them talk about the atmosphere at Newcastle the other week, and I was thinking about that, what an atmosphere would be like at the City Ground under the lights with a big European team. I think the format now guarantees that we'd get at least a couple of big fixtures at the City Ground. So if I'm getting carried away, shut me up. But I heard Alanga being interviewed the other day and said we're allowed to dream. That's not getting carried away. Everybody dreams of playing in the Champions League as footballers, and we as fans can dream of being at a City Ground game in the Champions League. That's not us being, making any assumptions. It's just being hopeful. And, we obviously, some of us, not you, Max, because you're not old enough, but some of us have some experience. If you were born in the late 60s, early 70s, then you've got experience of those games. So, yeah, if that came back, it'd be brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And talking about special atmosphere at the City Ground, something quite nice to touch on that I was thinking of, and we're going to get onto the City Ground being redeveloped in a minute, and that date kind of been slightly pushed back. But the fact that England will host a friendly in the summer, it's the first time after an 84-year absence of the England men's team playing at the City Ground, which is crazy to say. Thomas Tuchel's schedule as the new England men's head coach will involve the national team playing at Forest at the City Ground for the first time in more than 80 years. It will be a friendly against Senegal. That could all change though with the date and stuff, so it isn't set in stone, but it will definitely be in the summer. What do you make of that, Rob? That's quite nice news that England will play a friendly at the City Ground. Almost feels, I suppose I'm talking from a younger generation here, but almost feels like Forest are big time. I've always wanted us to play a game at the City Ground in terms of England, that is, and I've always wondered for the last couple of years why it's never happened. It probably doesn't help that we were a championship side for a long period of my life, but the fact that Forest are now in the Premier League, fighting for Europe, we're a big team, we're challenging that top six narrative, and we get an England game at the end of this season. It's good stuff, isn't it?
It's amazing, and at 96 again for anybody who was at adult age. 96 was an amazing summer. For me, my daughter was born in April that year, so there was other reasons apart from football that it was an amazing summer. But it was really hot. I remember it well. And of course, there was a qualifier at the City Ground, which I went to. So, this is obviously a step up from that. So it's phenomenal. And yeah, I'd love to understand what the choice is, because I think by our own admission, and hence why the owner is doing the investment that he's doing in the City Ground, certainly on the main stand side, or main stand as I call it, old money. I think it's Peter Taylor now. The facilities could be better, but of course, if the objective is to try and get a great atmosphere and get behind the England team, then there's no better place than the City Ground to do that. So I can fully understand why they've chosen it. And when you think there's teams like Sunderland, which obviously is an excellent ground, I think I'm right in saying that there's been England games held there in years past. And so it's I don't think they've ever done anything at Derby. So it's great that they are giving us a chance at the City Ground, and it'll be a great atmosphere. And if it's a summer evening, it'll be phenomenal. So it'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. The fight for tickets for that game, I am sure. Talking of maybe the need for tickets, Rob, the City Ground redevelopment being delayed until 2026, the summer. That was a bit of news that came out this week, which I kind of expected. I think it's a very. I mean, there's a lot of a complex nature with the council and things like that still, and there's other land around Forest and buying it and leasing it and all of this. So it's a lot more complex than maybe everyone thinks. So I can kind of understand why it's been delayed. But the thing is, Rob, it still shows Marinakis' investment that it's still going to go ahead this eventually. And it probably is something that we need to do, especially if Forest are playing Champions League football, because the need to fill a ground, we can definitely fill more than 30,000 it is at the minute. But it's good that the club have still got this kind of proposed plan, and hopefully they're going to get the ball rolling in the summer of 2026.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested, again, as the fact that you and I sit in the main stand, what the plan is. I did hear, whether it's true or not, that there could be building around the existing infrastructure, because I can't see how, we would be. I'm sure there is enough seats, obviously restricting the away fans and not putting tickets on general sale. I suppose we could be allocated seats in other places of the ground, but it would also be great if they can build around the existing stand and do again what Liverpool did with their restructure. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm no expert on it, but from what I understand, there's so many considerations. I think the one that everybody knows about is the rowing clubs over the back there, but with the transport infrastructure as well. So you can fully see why, first of all, clubs move away from existing grounds and go and build on industrial estates, God forbid in Toton. But I think we've got to accept as fans, we can sit here and moan and say, why is it taking so long? But I'm sure it's a very complicated process. And, going back to Marinakis, I'm sure he'll be finding every legal way to try and progress it. And he's obviously, even at chairman level, he brought that guy in, didn't he? And I'm sure that was to try and expedite things, and maybe that couldn't happen. So he's gone back to the what was the existing infrastructure. But we're in a good place. I mean, if you think step by step, we were successful and managed to get into Europe this season. As a result, we managed to keep some of our existing players, or all of our existing players. And then because of the the money, maybe we can attract another player, and then move on in the following year to the ground rebuild. That's not a bad trajectory, is it? So in Marinakis we trust. So I'm not unhappy about that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. No, spot on, mate. Some nice words there. Sure, it will get done, and the club seems to be moving in the right direction, which we keep talking about, which is good to see. Let's talk footprints, Rob. We always mention it, especially when we get towards the end of an episode. Obviously, me and you both lucky to be involved with a brilliant charity in Nottingham. We had a good meeting the other week, it was now, with a few of the other trustee board members and, of course, staff at Footprints, and talked about everything there. So, plans in place, which are moving very, very nicely. previously. Just give us a brief overview, really, Rob, of what is happening with the charity at the minute, and there's some obviously exciting stuff happening, especially with the new site in Clifton.
Well, the first thing that's got to be mentioned, of course, is you joining we as Footprints have joined a movement called the Young Trustees, and I'll say this for any young Forest fans out there or other, one of the challenges that many places face at the moment, and in particular charities, Rotary Club, Masons. Many places that generate a lot of money for charities each year, the next generation are not coming through. Maybe it's because different different interests. So I'm a big believer in the Young Trustee movement, and as part of that, I'm very proud to announce you as a young trustee. And whether you're a young trustee or an old trustee like me, you're involved because of what we know you can give to the charity. And to answer your question is, what we've done at Footprints is, and I mentioned previously, I'm from the sales environment, and the secret to sales is getting out there, speaking to enough people, and you'll come across enough opportunities to be able to grow your sales. And that's exactly what we've done at Footprints. First of all, we've got an amazing, I'll say, a product. It's clearly not a product, but just using the sales analogy there. So what I'll say is we do an amazing thing at Footprints, providing conductive education to children with neurological challenges. That can be various different disabilities. But the first thing about that is that we only touch a small percentage of children who have those challenges. So it's always been our objective to try and find somewhere that give us the platform to extend that out. So moving to the Clifton premises, which for anybody who knows Clifton at all, we're at the Highbank Community Centre. And community is a key word, because the condition of us taking on the Highbank Community Centre is that we still stay part of the community. So what we're able to do with the size of the premises is, first of all, we'll be able to extend, and at the moment we look after roughly 60 families, and we will have the ability to look after 300 families with the existing staff as well, because of the size of the classrooms and the number of classrooms that we've got. So that's amazing. We've also got a community hall. At the moment, if we want to do a Christmas party or do anything to raise money, it might be afternoon tea or anything like that, we have to go out and we have to hire a hall, which is a cost to us. So we now can obviously utilise our own hall, but we can hire that out to the local community. And then as part of it, we will have a coffee shop. And I've spent time down there, and with all due respect to every other establishment around Clifton, I still haven't found a decent coffee within walking distance. So we've had an amazing commitment from 200 Degrees Coffee, who are going to give us the coffee. Everybody knows 200 Degrees, that do loads of stuff for charity. So they've made a commitment to us as well. So we're well on our way now. One of the things that how charities operate. First of all, we get support from various different Nottingham businesses, and I called them out last time, but I want to say it again. A big thank you to the construction industry in Nottingham. In particular, Blueprint, which is a company that we're dealing with, who were introduced to Blueprint through Gleeds. So they've helped us out massively in the premises. To progress things along. But the next thing that you have to do is, there's so many grants are available, but generally what grants don't want to do is they don't want to be, it's a bit like going on to Dragon's Den when you're doing a pitch on there. They don't want to pay somebody's wages. They want to see that something's happening with their money. So this premises has given us that platform to be able to do that, and we can take many people, as we have done, and you'll see it on social media if you follow us, many people into Footprints, and they can see what we're actually doing and the impact that we're going to have on families. So we even today alone, we've had some amazing news on a grant that we applied for. So we've got phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. So we got 2 grants recently, which got us £50,000 and £5,000, and that allowed us to kick on with phase 1. And then we go through the applications to get phase 2 and phase 3. But the news that we have today has allowed us to have confidence that we can move to phase 2 and phase 3 and have the objective to be up and running in Clifton, supporting the families by April the 26th, which is going to be absolutely amazing. So that is only less than where are we now? February, March, April. So it's less than 3 months away. So that is just fantastic news. And ahead of me coming on here today, it's brilliant to get that news. And just once again, thank you to the local community of Clifton. It's amazing the amount of people that call in who are pleased to see that building there has been redundant out the back. There's a massive area. There's even a football pitch there that we plan to do things with for the children in the local community. So we're well on our way. So it's fantastic news. We look forward to working with the community and getting continued support from Nottingham businesses and helping the families that we do today.
Absolutely, Rob. No, lovely stuff. Forest doing well on the pitch, Forest doing well off the pitch, and Footprints doing well off the pitch. So all good to see, mate, and especially for the area of Nottingham and Clifton. If anyone wants any more information on Footprints, you can definitely go online, just search Footprints in your Google browser at Footprints Charity Nottingham, or alternatively you can go to www.footprintsscec.org. And you can find out lots more information there. There's lots of ways you can get involved with the charity, whether that be volunteering or donating. We of course really appreciate it. So great stuff. Rob, just before we go then, mate, as traditional, if we do preview episodes ahead of a game, give us a score prediction for Exeter on a cold Tuesday night at 8 o'clock.
I'm going to predict a clean sheet because we like a clean sheet. So I assume that they'll give the first choice a resting goal, and we'll get our big guy in the goal there. So I expect a clean sheet, and I'm hoping for a fairly easy night, and so I'll go with a 3-0 win.
We will take that indeed. Rob, thanks as ever, mate. Great to have your company, and appreciate you coming on, especially to talk about some really good stuff happening in and around Forest and of course Footprints at the moment. We shall be back for a review of Exeter either on that Tuesday night straight after the game or on the Wednesday morning. I'm not making the trip, so I might do a live podcast straight after watching it on the telly. I think it's on one of the mainstream, either BBC.
It's on ITV, yeah.
ITV,
so, a lot more people access, so that's good.
No, absolutely. So we'll be able to watch that, and we'll do a podcast after. There'll be a few other bits and pieces as well in the next few weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Give us a like, share and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook as well, Nottingham Forest News. Follow us across Spotify and Apple Podcasts on Garibaldi Red. Leave us a review if you did enjoy, as it really helps the podcast, and we shall see you after a sunny trip to Exeter. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.